Alright everyone, we have a League of Empires live cast for this one. We're with Druz, Lite versus Parabellum here. As you can see in the scoreboard above us, so Druz should give that team away, so you know the difference between the teams here. Alright, so let's start with introducing the players here. I'll start with Parabellum, and I'll start with their pocket, which is Case's Belly here. Chosen one of the more obvious pocket civs. Frank's fantastic pocket civ. They have a good early eco bonus in harvesting berries faster. They get the farm upgrades instantly upon each age, and their stable units get plus 20 HP from Feudal Age onwards as well. So the Frank Scouts Rush is one of the strongest Scouts Rush out there, and you'd have an easy time supplying units to either side of your flanks with your mobility and that extra HP strength. We'll obviously go into Knights and eventually Paladins, but should the need for a defensive approach arise, Franks have more than decent Halberdiers as well. So we have Casus Belli here. He is... hold on a moment. He is currently 1366 rated 1v1, but he has peaked at 1493, so he's almost touch upon that 1500 range. So obviously a solid player, going to improve a nice pocket here, I'm sure. So on his right side or top side flank, we have White Fang AOK here. He's rated 1379 at the moment in 1v1 and also peaked above 1500 at 1507. He's gone with Tatars for this one. As we know, a solid civ after the recent patch. They once they reach village, 2 sheep will spawn for free, essentially giving you 2 times 150 food because their herdables last longer or give you plus 50 food. So when you reach the feudal age with Tatars, you would instantly get 300 foods worth of sheep under a TC, which is effectively delaying your farm placement for food income. So that's something to think about with Tatars. Tatars, fantastic cavalry archers, so that's a mobility play we could see happen during this game. The offset being that they don't get Arlevest for the Imperial Age, so even if you open crossbows with Tatars, it's not viable past Cast Age necessarily. You'd have to go into something else. On the plus side though, they have camels as well, and heavy camels in him, as we see Cheap losing his initial scout here. I mean, Cheap, he loves to lane. That's probably why he's out scouting this early, almost the 5th minute, and that comes at the cost of the scout. No lane for Cheap this game. So see the 0-1 and death there. But that's White Fang with the Tatars flank, probably going to go into some kind of infantry opening into archers, maybe even straight archers, because in the cast stage Tatars get fumbling for free, essentially leaving their archers with a quicker, faster firing rate and more accuracy. Now for the other flank, for Parabellum here, is Butterscotch. He plays as the Vikings, is currently rated as 1473 1-1, and he rings the town bell for some reason here, must have misclicked for sure. And I'm not quite sure what the idea was here. For sure must have been a misclick here, maybe a little bit nervous here or struggling for food. Not sure why he did that, wasn't any immediate threat around here. But Butterscotch with the Vikings, fantastic economy civ. He's dropping the barracks here, going to go for that pre-build rush as Vikings, which could be very strong against a Mayans player who will probably rely on walling and try to get to that cast age quicker with the faster producing archers. Light Corvo has gone for the middle, so no barracks just yet. Won't really have any defense against a pre-build rush here. So that could be a good play by the Vikings player here, albeit he is behind. One villager has teched into Loom, so that's probably the reason. To the north we have a scout, White Fang running into Chief Space, almost losing his scout now. And Casus Belli also here with his scout to delay the early wallings. Now let's go to Team Druzina as well. We have Palm as the pocket here. Solid pocket player, he knows how to play his cavalry, and he's with a strong cavalry save for this one. He has Persians, fantastic boom. Their TCs have them twice the HP, but they also work 10, 15 and 20% faster in the Feudal, Castellan and Imperial ages respectively. See Palm going up to Feudal at 21 pop here, obviously going to go into the scouts to begin with here, then maybe wall off his very nicely wallable base here between the woodlands. It's going to be a bit of extensive walling. The houses already provide some cover here, and you'd extend to this side, maybe on this side, and then finally in the back sides of your base. Persians, fantastic mobility. They have both paladin and heavy camel, and their knights line have an extra attack against archers. And we have Cheap in the north here as Saracens. I've seen him play Saracens in team games before. He's good at massing his archers and keeping them, and then using that Saracens bonus against buildings. Cheap is in the 1400s, so is Palm. They are in the low 1400s on run, whereas Lite Corbo is the highest rated player, at least in terms of peak, because it's peaked at 1566 rating, and we can tell from the preemptive, the quick walls here, that Lite Corbo knows what's up here. Let's see his scouting if he knows about that early barracks. Doesn't really know about it. Doesn't garrison here either, so doesn't want to risk that idle time with Mayans. Relies on his quick walls instead, and is going to keep the pre-milled rush out for now. Another quick wall will be needed here. Fails that one. But as is with Mayans, we get that loop early. One builder will go down though. Nice blocking here by Butterscotch. Garrison TC. Garrison. There we go. Incredible. Saves that woman at 1 HP. So walls keep the aggression out. I wonder if Butterscotch is going to move on and try and hit the pocket, but Palm is really far away here. The spawns on this Arabia gen is pretty weird. These flanks very close to each other. One hill in the middle to fall back to for your ranged units, whereas Palm is way in the back here, so same with the other pocket, pretty close to the edge in some sense here, and then very close to his flank. So is he Cheap going with the full walls approach here with Saracens? That's a huge commitment in the Dark Age, but he wants to go the straight archers here apparently. Has men-at-arms in his base, but White Fang won't be able to cause any damage just yet. Will force some repairs here though, so arguably some damage done. But here comes the market from Saracens, maybe not surprisingly. You could use that to adjust your economy easily, get quicker to the next stage, or just do other stuff. Gate, quick gate goes up. Is that a trap? Nice little men-at-arms pen here for Cheap. He sends out one villager to drop a gate, and as long as he repairs this lumber camp, he could hit these men-at-arms with his archers once his ranges are up, and he's rushing up these ranges right now. You can tell from the wood and gold count that he shouldn't have any trouble pumping out some archers, and he could even sell the stone for some quicker gold here to get that archer's production pumping. He is with 8 on gold already though, so looks like Cheap is going to rely heavily on the market abuse from Saracens here early on, and really committing to the walling as well. At least 3 villagers walling now, more or less full walling. So at the cost of some idle time here, but lumber camp stays, and once the archers are out, the men-at-arms will be history. So Casus Belli, obviously with the Franks scouts opening here as well, and is at roughly the same population as Palm, but Palm has a 10% quicker working TC, so he will be taking the villager lead here because of that. Looking at the military count as well, Casus Belli is with 5, Paul is with 4 military, so Palm, in order to take any fights against the Franks player here, because the Franks have more HP on their scouts, Palm will have to either get more numbers, or maybe consider investing into either attack and defense upgrades. Attack or defense upgrades. Scouts won't be let through here though. The full walls are a fact for Cheap here. He has two ranges and a blacksmith going up. Lite Corbo meanwhile has kept the Drush out, now killing it up with his own archers. It's already 11 military for Lite Corbo. That's the beauty of Mayans. Their archers are cheaper, so you have an easier time to mass them as well. Lite Corbo still open though. We'll have to rely on some quick walls if these scouts come to enter his base. Let's look at Casus Belli's scouting here. Doesn't have a market yet. He's going for blacksmith stables, right, for the up. So he doesn't know what his teammates are up to concretely. He has 6 scouts in the mix. Doesn't know, unfortunately, that Lite Corbo is still unwalled. So we could loop in here and take some gold, take Lite Corbo off gold for a little bit. Meanwhile, we have a mix of archers and skirms from White Fang in the north. Understandably so, because he's up against Saracens. You know that Saracens can take out your buildings easily. You'd want some skirmishers in your mix together with your archers to more easily take out the Saracens archers. At least as long as there aren't any any scouts or knights on the field to deal with your skirmishers. And when you keep them close to the archers like this, it's also tougher to actually take them out. Note that Cheap has fletching though, whereas White Fang does not. So even if these guys are roughly equal numbers here, it's going to be Cheap's fight to win because he has the upgrades. Light Corvo at Butterscotch's base now. Casus Belli dives in to help out here, but without enough army of their own, Butterscotch might struggle here. I think they're taking a decent fight though. They're sort of trapping the archers here with Casus Belli's scouts, and Light Corvo tries to trade villagers to the best of his ability. It means Butterscotch is down 3 villagers to Light Corvo now, and that also includes Light Corvo's first loom. They both have looms, so that's a 3 villager difference overall there. Scouts and archers cleaning up though, keeping the numbers low, and Light Corvo is left with 11 military, whereas Butterscotch has only 8, but then there's the scouts of Casus Belli as well. Full walls go up for Light Corvo though, that's going to delay the aggression for a little bit. Palm is out-scouted for the time being, but is also on the way to the Castle Age already, so Palm is going to have a ridiculous lead going into the Castle Age and getting the Knights out first, seeing as Casus Belli hasn't picked up yet, will do that any second. So there's the scouts run in here, Light Corvo with his army to help out here. I think this is a better fight for Light Corvo and Palm here. Palm will have Knights soon anyway, so he could easily sacrifice his scouts, but Light Corvo could just keep those Vikings archers numbers low. So both pockets on the way to the Castle Age. Palm taking Bloodlines and armor here. Bloodlines essential here against the Franks Knights who get Bloodlines and essentially for free in the Feudal Age. There's some flaring to the north as well, as Cheap is on the move. He has 16 archers here now with fletching and armor. And Palisade Walls, of course, doesn't stop Saracens. They have a bonus against buildings for their archers, so you have an easy time breaking through and now harassing White Fang's eco here. White Fang with roughly the same villagers and military as Cheap here. So the population look roughly similar here. Palm actually with the lowest one because he lost his scout, so he lost his military population. But he is way earlier to the Castle Age than the other players. He is with, I think he has 2 stables now. Palm definitely going to carry from pocket indeed. Air 12 is so much earlier to the Castle Age, now getting +2 already for the Knights. And let's look at his eco. Yeah, 17 on food, 10 on gold. Shouldn't have any problems here massing Knights out of 2 tables. Yeah, stables. 3 Knights on the move. They are probably going to accompany Cheap now on this side if needed. Light Corvo seems to be able to hold his own here. He's going to take care of... What the hell are White Fang's archers doing all the way down here, by the way? Finally embracing himself. Embracing his true calling as Boomer. Yes, indeed. So I have no idea why White Fang is all the way on the opposite flank here. That doesn't really make sense, and he's going to lose his numbers here anyway. So maybe he was trying to reinforce his teammates down here. But all in all, the military situation is a lot stronger for Light Corvo and Cheap and Palm here. So overall numbers, I'd say at least 10-15 more here for Druz Lite. We have Frank's Knights on the field though. They have the +2, they have +1. Let's see. Palm here has only 10, so no +1 here. But the Knights here, together with Cheap's archers. Let's look at Cheap's setup here. Is not all that far away from the Castle Age kick either. So he is looking at 17 crossbows here potentially. Palm will easily deal with the skirms here, and White Fang is in serious trouble here with lots of idols. Frank's Knights come to help, but Palm could mix in camels here if needed against the Frank's Knights as well. That's the perk of being Persians here. But also lacking that +1 is going to struggle against Knights only. He would need either camels in this mix or take into that +1 ASAP, and I don't see any sign of that just yet from Palm here. He could still try and outmass as well though. Cheap is bringing his archers back, obviously, wants to save the numbers before he can hit the Castle Age here. On the south side, Light Corvo, 50% Castle Age, takes the hill here, is going to assume some control of the map here. Has an easy point to fall back to east. From the looks of it, he's lagging behind Butterscotch here to the next age, but in return, he has slightly more numbers. I think seeing the numbers of Butterscotch here, Lite Corvo might need to consider to go for another range. He has a easier time to sustain 3 range production anyway with Mayan's cheaper archers, so that could be an option here. I like that he pulled off the hill though, because his opponent is already in the cast stage with Bodkin, with armor, and with a crossbow. Pulling away to salvage the army. Let's look at Lite Corvo's setup here. 10 on wood, 9 on gold seems okay for the overall setup here. We'll have to wait to engage though, and the crossbows are true from the Vikings player here. Will cause some idle time on the Lite Corvo's eco here, pulling the villagers from gold inside his base. And could be a slight issue here for Lite Corvo, because he will struggle to get gold now. Both his secondary golds are outside of his walls. But with cast stage in, he could go for a TC on either of these golds, just to make sure they are secured. Numbers now though, the crossbow numbers are roughly similar, and Palm is running into the rescue here with his mounted units to help out. He has a few camels in the mix now as well, still lacking forging though, and the Frank's Knights have forging, so that's +1. +1 attack for Casus Belli, so even his Knights now would challenge Palm's camels. Unfortunately, this is a much better fight for Butterscotch and Casus Belli here, simply because Palm, even though he had roughly the same numbers, is lacking forging. So just we want to check the numbers before we run into enemy armies here. I think they're going to clean up eventually, and Lite Corvo seems to salvage his numbers all right enough here. Palm is with 64 villagers, Casus Belli with 60, so a slight pocket lead for Palm with his faster working TCs. I'm assuming they are both on 3 TCs more or less now. Yeah, 3 TCs. And Lite Corvo loses his numbers after all here. Palm did lose all his army, and Lite Corvo is now left with 3 military here. So that's going to be a pickle. He's massing them inside the stable for now. Palm sends in knights again. As long as he can hit the archers alone, he should be alright here. He has the +2 armor and he has a bonus attack against archers, but once he runs into the Frank's Knights, he's going to struggle because they have 1 more attack. Chief is such a conservative and responsible player. His style and my style don't fit at all. Well, Maisel, is it responsible playing by Chief though? He likes laming and he goes for full Saracen's Madness here. At the last point I agree with though, your playstyles don't match. Alright, Palms, he is here with the numbers, still lacking the upgrades, but as long as he takes fights with larger numbers, he should still be okay-ish here. We'll get into a point where Lite Corvo might need to supply some pikes or something, actually. Add some scorpions here. Siege option from the hill. It's looking bad on Lite Corvo's side, I admit here. He's with 8 knights inside the space. Palm is with assistance as well, but again he's lacking that +1. So he's going to be outmatched in even numbers here. Scorpions have a hidden damage against the mounted units as well, so they are helping out a little bit here as well. And would give area attack on the crossbows, so you can hit multiple crossbows. 1 rage will go down here for Lite Corvo. You need to rebuild the ranges as well, but at least has gold in the back here. Something that Butterscotch might not be aware of just yet. Has scouted it though. Seems like Parabellum is holding off the offense in the north as well. I mean, Cheap seems to be wanting to go for the pocket. White Fang is down to 38 villagers, so some serious damage has been caused on the Tatars here, but you shouldn't underestimate the Tatars' reboom potential either. But if Cheap now goes with this mass of 50 crossbows to hit the pocket here, then I see Casus Belli struggling a little bit. His eco is spread out, but Saracen's crossbows, they can outrange TCs and they could take out town centers surprisingly fast. So I think that's the plan here, to go hit the pocket to eliminate the highest mobility factor on the opposing team. So I'm checking the upgrades again. Palm overall with 27 military here, so if he collects all of his military, he has a better chance at fighting Casus Belli here. But Scorpions in the back here behind the archers are working out very nicely here, damaging a lot of units at once. And Palm, lacking that +1 attack, is still going to struggle in even numbers against the Frank's Knights here. 2 Mangonels to push as well. Lite Corvo still only on 1 TC as is usual for pockets, but now with 52 crossbows raiding Casus Belli's base, we might see TCs go down here, and you could almost 2-shot Knights here, as we see with this massive crossbows. Butterscotch is on the forward with some siege and cav archers though, so Cheap will have to react to this as well. Let's see if he has a... he doesn't have a stable, otherwise you could add just something to deal with the Mangonel more easily, but I don't think he's freaked out by Feudal Age archers and skirmishers here. We'll be focusing on the forward instead, taking Knights numbers down here now, and also distracting the forward on Lite Corvo's base here. Buying time for Lite Corvo to stabilize, buying time for Palm to get the numbers back up here and assemble them, and finally Forging is in for Palm here as well, so he is now with similar attack upgrades to Casus Belli's +1 Knights here. Imperial Age on the way for the Vikings player here, Butterscotch, so he's done a great job here with the early forward and now extending it to more ranges. He's going to be the first one to get to Arbalest, but now he has to go help his pocket with all these Saracens archers here just melting the TC here. Overall military looking more worrying now for Parabellum here. It's 39 for Butterscotch, it's 13 for White Fang, and then there's way more for the hold of Druz Lite here. I think it's a very good call for Cheap to move on to pocket after having crippled the Tatars player this match. Cav archers are good for the mobility and the raiding potential here on exposed ecos like this, so seems a bit risky or Cheap to go for the exposed farms here, but there are some camels of Palm in place here to potentially deal with Cav archer rushes as well. Cheap definitely outnumbers Vikings here. If he sees that Imperial Age kick in, I think he'll be forced to take the fight against these crossbow masses. So we have a flare in the middle, that's Butterscotch flaring the Persian Knights on the way here. Palm just slightly behind, actually with the faster working TC might reach Imperial Age before Butterscotch here, and let's look at Casus Belli's eco. What the situation is like is very far from Imperial Age, and that could be a key factor switching up the favor of the teams here, having the Frank's pockets so far away from Imperial Age. We have a strong push from Lite Corvo in Butterscotch's base as well. Has the appropriate upgrades. I'm pretty sure he has ballistics with this as well. And some of... yeah, I think Butterscotch pull all of his archers back. Imperial Age is in those, so he's going to have Bracer and Arbalest. Should be easy to fight off Mayans even in lower numbers with that extra range. Casus Belli tries to rebuild a TC here as Butterscotch is pulling a 32 crossbows over. They will soon be Arbalests and could deal with Cheap's army here, although Cheap is on the way to the Imperial Age as well. And Palm is on the way to get Cavalier and plate barding armor here. Going to hit the north side again. White Fang is at 55 villagers, so he's kind of out of the game still. You don't really need to pay too much attention to this guy at this point in game. Just keep hitting the pocket and make that mobility potential not an issue. More than 60 villagers in one spot here, but Vikings are in, and Cheap is giving away the hill here to deal with the Tatars Cav archers. We'll try to flee here to keep as many numbers as possible to get to those Saracens Arbalesters. So the Arbalest forward in Lite Corvo's base again, but a defensive castle in a decent spot here to at least secure the woodline and TC here. Does not really cover the gold, but there's some stuff inside there. I said that Lite Corvo had ballistics, he absolutely doesn't, because he just dropped the Universe. Alright, so 34 crossbows being chased by 32 Arbalest here. Imperial Age 75% for Chief here. Let's see if he can be able to get to that upgrade eventually. Palm doing great work on here, taking out Arbalest with his Cavalier, no problem. The Persian's Knight line has extra attack against archers. Butterscotch left with close to 40 armor now. Light Corvo with 60 plus, they're going to wear Arbalest soon. Cheap keeping his numbers as well, and is going to reunite with the rest of his forces here. And should have no issues dealing with the Cav archers once they get closer. Yeah, just still crossbows taking decent engagements against these admittedly strong Tatar Scavengers, but no unique tech for Tatars here. If you look at White Fangs, where's White Fang? Look at the tech tree for Tatars, they have a unique silk armor for light cavalry, step lancers, and cavalry archers to get +1/+1, but there's no castle for White Fang yet, so that does not apply. Palm doing a great job at keeping a steady flow of cavaliers here. Let's look at his eco if he could get close to Paladin at some point as well. Not quite yet, obviously. We have Cheap with the Arbalesters here, going to take out the University for White Fang, just in case he doesn't have ballistics and chemistry yet. Definitely doesn't have chemistry because he's Gas Lage, and the Arbalest will trade efficiently against the Cav Archers here, no problem. You could just stand ground patrol and let them fire at different targets here, and White Fang will use essentially all of his army. And for Cav Archers to be efficient, you preferably want to be in the Imperial Age, and you want large masses, and that's what Cheap is doing a great job at keeping down right now. We could easily take out TCs as well with this Saracen's Arbalest, causing lots of bonus damage. And there's the GG, and understandably so, White Fang is more or less out of the game, was hurt a lot early here. In the middle, we have Casus Belli still in the cast stage and never got around. I think he may have lost his Imp TC if he was imping, because he has so much food and gold in the bank right now. But struggling for military numbers under all of the pressure. And finally, Butterscotch did lose Arbalesters to Palm's Cavalier with the earlier Imperial Age as well. So GG well played, 1-0 for Druz Lite. Great KD for Cheap here, 147 to 78. Raised 13 buildings as well, only with archers. That's pretty crazy. As we see the army numbers here for Druz, overall much higher than the opposing team. And a good testament about Druz's early attacks paying off. Town Bell indeed, last resort for the Tatos player, and Town Bell into GG it was. Looking at the Persians eco here as well, probably with the most villagers overall, you do produce villagers more quickly out of your TCs. Uptimes significant as well, earliest scouts opening, even beating Franks to the punch here with 21 pop with Persians. Fastest cast late and almost the fastest impulse villagers, 7 seconds difference. Both teams keeping good army numbers here all the way, but Scotch had a nice forward on Light Corbo as well, but the teamwork is what saved them when Palm could finally get to that forging upgrade for its knights and fight back the Franks units with a mix of camels and knights.